Jason Michaels TV, episode number 4, live from Nashville and Los Angeles. Jason Michaels Live, episode number 4 has, where's it at? Come on, come with me. Oh, my whole, we got the applause and everything so that we're official. All right, we're going to do some magic in a second. We're actually going to perform some magic right here on the screen. What you're going to need in order to do this is 3 playing cards. I have my 3 playing cards, and what you're going to need is 1 picture card. It's going to look, it can be a jack, a queen, and a king, or a king. It doesn't matter what you pick. And you're going to need 2 number cards. So I've got 1 red card and 2 black cards, and we're going to do this in a minute. So, well, it'll be a couple minutes from now. But what you're going to want to do is grab 3 playing cards, 1 that is very different from the other 2. And then grab those, hold on to them. We'll come back just in 1 second. And I have an awesome interview with my special guest, Jessica Jane Peterson. So let me tell you, we're going to find out, we're going to meet Jessica Jane, and I've had the opportunity of seeing her perform. She's a wonderful magician. We've traveled around the world together, and she is the reason I am wearing my Armed Forces Entertainment hat and my Armed Forces Entertainment shirt, because we did some Armed Forces Entertainment tours together. We're going to learn what she does, where she does it, how she's dealing with COVID-19, where people can see her, all sorts of stuff. Now, here's the thing she doesn't know. I did a little bit of backgrounds. I was kind of like looking around. I was like, you know, anytime I bring on a special guest, I want to make it clear to the viewers why I think it's so awesome that this person is on my show. So what I did before I introduce her to you is I went and found a video clip. This is from Camp Darby, which is in Italy. It is not, and performers are known for hating to watch themselves. Every magician, every performer I know cannot stand to watch themselves. This is a short clip, and well, here's the beautiful thing about this. You can see just how wonderful Jessica Jane is on stage with such great stage presence. This was for a performance full of kids and adults at Camp Darby in Italy. So enjoy.
Well, magic is one of the oldest known art forms. It's actually known to be older than music and dance. So as magicians, it's our job to hold the secrets of magic for you so we can share them with you on nights like tonight. It's about taking something ordinary and making it extraordinary. For example, this handkerchief in here seems totally ordinary, but it's so much more than that. Believe it or not, that handkerchief is alive. Can I get an ooh? Ooh. Ah! One more time. Ooh! Ah! You guys are good. All right, he's actually going to come to life and do a magic trick just for you. His name is Sean. Everybody say hello, Sean. All right, Sean, you ready to get your trick up? He says he is. All right, bud, here we go. Okay, wake up. Wake up. Sean the handkerchief. Hey! We're going to make it a little bit more difficult for Sean, though. Got a cork in here. Wake up, bud. Wake up. Hey! What's your name, love? What is it? Amanda? Right this way, Amanda. Give her a round of applause. All right. Now, Sean is now your buddy, okay? And he's going to do whatever you say. So I want you to walk forward, close to the audience, hold Sean over your head like that, and whenever you want, tell Sean to stop. Good job. All right. Now, whenever you want, tell him to dance. Hey! All right, give her a big round of applause. Bow! Keep bowing, don't keep clapping, keep bowing. Good job, Mo. Thanks for helping.
Isn't that great? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing her to you straight from Hollywood, California. Hey, Jessica Jane Peterson.
Hey.
I thought to myself, oh, is she going to be mad if I showed this video clip? And then I was like, well, it's very possible, but let's do it anyway.
You didn't see my face. I went.
No, I did. I saw it. I was like, oh, Lord. Yes, she doesn't want to watch this. You know what?
Oh, God.
Like, Here's what's interesting. So I've had to learn how to throw away perfection, especially in like right now with the crazy world the way that it is, understanding that sometimes, like as entertainers, we just have this innate want to always show like the perfect camera
Yes.
angle with the best resolution and everything is perfect. But here's what's beautiful about that clip. They saw you, folks get to see you work for a real audience in a real, people often ask me when they find out that I do a lot of shows for the military, and they say, what's it like to do a show for the military? Because they don't, there's all sorts of different images in people's heads.
Yeah.
Some people think that it's a show that is like literally in a tent in the desert, which I've done those shows, but then it can also be a show which is more or less in an all-purpose room with like a temporary stage, and you have an audience of all ages, which is what that was. And so I think it's cool for them to see, the fact that we perform in all sorts of different types of settings and that we make it work no matter what.
And that was Camp Darby. That was the one where we got there. And remember, they had shut down the recreation center. They didn't have much going on. And we had a lot of kids.
Okay. Now, I don't remember those details. I remember some of the shows, like when we get no sleep and we like roll in there like, all right, we're gonna do a show. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like Greenland?
yeah, like Greenland. Actually, this is a picture of you. Hold on, let me share the screen again. This is a picture of you in Greenland right there. If you remember, I'm pretty sure that's called Mount Dundas. Does that sound right to you?
You're right.
So Jess in this picture is standing in front of Mount Dundas. This is from Greenland, and where we did a show at the Top of the World Club. And
yes, my first show for the Armed Forces.
I know. Yeah. So tell me. So yeah, with Steve Bargatze, absolutely. So I would love to hear. I mean, what are some highlights for you? You've had an interesting career, and what's fascinating is that when I was thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about, I thought, well, I've heard Jess's story about growing up basically in a family like I didn't get into magic until I was 16, but you literally grew up like your family was into magic from the moment you were born. So there's not been a time when you don't know magic.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what too. After this, I'll post a photo of my mom in the comments so that people can see her being sawn in half, so they realize that this is probably the craziest true story they'll ever hear.
I know. And what's interesting is like, I know your story. I guess because I know that, I often think to myself, well, what are some things, like if people, you have a lot of fans out there. You've been on Penn and Teller Fool Us. You've traveled literally around the world. You've worked on cruise ships, just all sorts of different types of settings. So people know who you are in the magic world, and as well as just in the regular world. And I often think, what are things that people haven't heard? Like if they've seen you on another one of these, or maybe heard your podcast or stuff like that. I always think about, what are some of the stories that people wouldn't know about? So tell me the way you remember. This is you. The first, so you and I worked for Armed Forces Entertainment. We went to Greenland. It was the first time that you had worked for that group and with me on tour. And so what was the experience? Like you were like, oh, Greenland. So what was the experience like going to Greenland, doing a show at the Top of the World Club, and just kind of like not knowing quite what you're getting into?
Well, first off, you were the first one to give me a break after I debuted all my material. I performed at Winter Carnival of Magic, and I remember you came up to me at Steve Gronowski's house with all he collected all the old school gaming machines, and you sort of asked me if I had a close-up set and this sort of stage show and and I said yes. And I think it was a couple months later, maybe 2 months later, you asked me to do that tour. So you were the first one to give me a paying gig with that material, with the tightrope routine, the gypsy thread routine I do and everything. So I'd opened my own show in Gatlinburg right after that, but you were my first paid gig after that point.
Oh, well, there you go. So that makes me proud. Maybe that means I can spot talent. What can I say?
Yay!
Everybody else is coming in after me. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to
Well,
hear
I've
that.
done shows. I mean, I've done shows since I was 15, but
Yeah.
but I feel like that show, Greenland in particular, that year I'd opened my own show in Gatlinburg. It was the first time I had done all of the material that now is like they're the building blocks of the show that I do on the cruise ships. And I remember Greenland was the first time doing that material outside of my Gatlinburg show. So I was nervous as anything, because it's one thing when you've done your show in the same place every day, and then all of a sudden you're on zero sleep and you're in a different location and you're doing this all for the first time, completely different setup. And I remember that was the flight where we were at Washington Airport until like 3:30 in the morning.
Right. That's right.
Yes. Yep. And because we were like the only ones there and like 4 soldiers, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I remember we got there, and that's when you told me, so as soon as we land, we're gonna start doing close-up magic, and I went, what?
And I tell you what, now if the folks who just watched that clip saw you perform for a group of families at the Top of the World Club, there are no families. It is all people who are directly involved in the day-to-day working of that base.
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I remember we did the close-up segment, and then they took us on a tour. And I remember realizing just how far away from everything we were when I saw those little white rabbits. Do you remember those? The Arctic hares? And they get close enough for you to pet them, and they told me not to because they could take your hand off. And I went, oh, okay, we're in a much different place than I'm used to. So it was an adventure all day. I remember also there was the commander that told us at lunch that if I did more traveling and I ended up in some of the places that you've been to, that there were those bugs, and if you swat them, they have like acid in them, and you have to like brush them away. And I was like, what am I getting myself into? Oh my gosh.
Totally, acid beetles. Yep. So you said that I gave you your first shot after Winter Carnival. Now, but there's a story about Winter Carnival. Like I was shocked what you told me about doing your show at the Winter Carnival of Magic. Do you know what I'm talking about?
What, for the first time?
Yes, exactly.
I debuted all my material in that show at a magic convention. No sane person takes 20 minutes of material and decides, I'm going to do this for the first time in front of 600 magicians. No one, but I did.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Because it's already a nerve-wracking experience to be in front of a bunch of magicians.
Yeah.
And then to do the show for the first time, like the fact that it went as well as it did is a surprise. But that goes to the fact that you have a ton of experience being on stage, even at that point in your career.
I call it my stage brain. So I've talked to Lance Burton about this, and he said, because I thought I was going crazy. I'm like, I'm experiencing this thing in shows. I don't know what it is. And it's funny because I hadn't gotten it yet when we did Greenland, and I hadn't gotten it for the other tour. I started getting it the last couple shows that we did. The one in, is it Spangdahlem?
Yeah.
Was our like last one, or like second to the last one. It's stage brain for me. It's like this meditative state, and so I'll be on stage, right? And I'm in the moment, and I'm doing everything, and I'm connecting with an audience, and I'm completely genuine and interacting with them. And then there's this other layer where I can almost watch myself from the back of the room in real time and give myself movement notes. I can give myself notes on scripting, notes on the volume of music, on lights. Like I can see it all. And then there's a third part of my brain that's only looking at volunteers that I'm going to use in the show. Because I'll watch people for maybe 15 minutes before I even think about getting them up, because I want people to be comfortable and be engaged. And then there's a fourth part of my brain that's even thinking about what I want to eat later.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. I messaged Lance and I was like, hey, I'm experiencing this really weird thing. And he goes, that's just because you've done a lot of shows. He goes, it's normal when you hit the 1,000 show threshold to start experiencing this. And I had no idea. So I think in addition to that, shows like the Greenland show and like the Armed Forces shows where it was a different venue every time. And I remember sometimes when we asked about microphones and they would pull out the remember the karaoke singing machine corded mic, and we went, oh, we're gonna project.
Ben Young will not let me forget the karaoke mic.
Oh God. But yeah, I mean, it's from being in all the different venues. And now I used to get nervous about changing venues every show because I've been so used to being in the same theater every day. And now I love it. But now it's not even a factor. Like, I get on a cruise ship, maybe 15 minutes goes by, and I'm just like, okay, so this is going to go over there today. That's going to go over here. Yeah. We're going to use this. We don't have this light, so we'll use this. And we can't use the LED wall, so we're going to use the screen and have it fly in and do da-da-da-da-da-da. And I don't stress over it anymore. It's so interesting. It's like I've developed an additional part of that stage brain I talk about, and it's just problem solving. And yeah. I put no effort into accessing it. It's just another thing now. And that's the only way I can describe it, is almost like a meditative state. And I think it's from being in so many high stress situations since I was 15 with shows, and having to deal with it and fix things. And well, Terry Evans was shown Pitch and Forge. I did thousands and thousands and thousands of times, but something new went wrong almost every single day. So you learned in real time, the show goes on, problem solve, big illusions. There's people floating on water and boxes on fire and curtains that might not open, and this sound cue misfires, and then the smoke machine does this, and there's fog fluid all over the stage. Don't fall while you're running from one side to the other. The other gonna duck. I mean, like, you never know. You never know what's gonna happen. It was so high stress. So, and I remember there were shows in the Armed Forces tour where I thought, wow, this is working. Like, this is the real work.
Yeah,
Truly.
It's an interesting thing. Well, I mean, I've always loved the idea of doing your own show in your own space. But for so many people who do what we do, you have to travel. You have to be in different settings. And you get to a point where you just get used to going. You walk into a room and you just kind of within 2 minutes, you know what the play is going to be that day.
And I always wondered how you did it, because I would watch you on the road and you walk in and you're like, okay, da-da-da-da-da, put this here, put that there, done. Like, and like in minutes, you were ready to go. And I remember looking over at Ben Young that we were on the road with, and I'm like, how does he do that? That's amazing. And you also taught me too, that is something technical. I remember you were doing some camera work on there, and in certain venues we went to, they were older venues. And if something got weird with a camera cord or something, you're like, okay, I'm going to spend this amount of time on it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to move to the next thing. We're going to do this. There's a plan in here. This effect is just as strong. We're putting this stage effect in. We'll do this instead of this. And it was just no stress. Like,
yeah, well, you know, that like you said, that comes from doing lots of shows. The more time that you have on stage and just dealing with things, you just realize you have to make decisions, and they may not always be the perfect decision. It may not be your perfect artistic show, the one that you planned out, but you have to put on a great show. So, and that's why you have to have a plan. In my mind, that's why I have a plan B. So I can go to plan B and nobody knows any difference.
No, same. I have 3 completely different 45-minute shows for the ships. Nice. Each 45 minutes. Yeah, I know, right? I went from having like a 30 minutes of material to 3 completely different 45-minute shows for 1,000-seat theaters, which is crazy to me. So in each show, I have a 5 to 8 minute close-up portion, which is, it's more parlor magic, but I do it on the camera. And for each 5 to 8 minute close-up portion of the show, I have an entirely different backup stage act. Because I've had ships, I was on the Norwegian Epic going from Italy to San Juan in November, and we had a blackout. And I lost, because it takes me about 45 minutes to light the show. I have like 60 some lighting cues that I'll put in because I really love lighting. And so we lost the lights, we lost the video, we lost everything. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, it literally did not faze me at all. I just moved to the other stuff. Yeah, it was fine.
Yep.
It was all good. It's just weird how that stuff works. You know, years ago that would have totally thrown me off, and now I'm like, it is what it is.
Yes, exactly. So you've been on ships for the last, I haven't seen you in like a year at least, and you've been doing a ton of ships. Any favorite stories or anything fascinating that's just been like, oh, you're not going to believe this, that you can tell?
Oh gosh, that I can tell.
Yeah.
That
Right.
eliminates some of them.
Right. Of course
No,
it does.
ships have been fun. Oh gosh. What's been some of our fun stuff on the ships? Well, I work with a lot of volunteers now because I use
Okay.
10 volunteers per show. And it's two shows in the theater and 2 shows in the comedy club headliners. I've had a lot of shows recently where we hit rough seas and they canceled the dance show and my phone rang in my cabin about 30 minutes until showtime. And they're like, Jessica Jane, we need a show. And so I'll run in, do my thing. Actually, here's a story of resilience for you, Jason Michaels.
Okay,
You're
give it
going
to
to
me.
enjoy this.
Okay.
This was my last cruise, and I knew when we were in Port in Miami, it was windy as anything, so windy. And I looked at the dancers and I'm like, we're in trouble. It's gonna be rough tonight. And these people have no idea that are in line to get on this ship.
Right.
So,
oh, yeah.
oh
okay.
yeah. So we go to do the welcome aboard show, and I usually don't have to do that show. It's usually the dancers and the production shows, and they sort of almost do an advertisement for the shows that you can add to your cruise. And all of a sudden, starts getting rocky. And again, about 30 minutes until showtime, the phone rings. Jessica Jane, we need 15 minutes of magic. So I have no makeup on. I was completely asleep. Like, I mean, like to the point where like I had a line on my face from my pillow. Like I was out cold. So I wake up. I'm like, oh my God. I throw on my costume. I like do my hair as quickly as I can. I throw on my makeup and I grab my magic table. I grab my backpack. I run to the theater. We barely have time to tech. I was just like, okay, give me 3 washes. Here's 3 music cues. Let's do this. Did the show, so rocky. I mean, it was to the point where when I was going down the stairs to the theater, as I would go down the stairs and it would lift, I'd feel myself go in the air and then I'd come down on a step super hard. It was so rough. So the next night, it's supposed to be the production show at the dancers. And it's like the captain's toast, everyone's inside. So, the captain is joking about the rough seas because ironically it was so rough they had to cancel the dance show, and they called me again an hour until showtime like, Jessica Jane, we need 2 45-minute shows in the theater. I'm like, okay, we got this, we're good. So I'm standing in the wing. First of all, the Jessica Jane logo is up behind the captain. Okay, it's like big on the screens. They've had like my picture with people going in the theater. This was so funny. Poor Captain Dan. He did not know that it was a woman magician on the show that night. So Captain Dan goes into a full 10 to 15 minute stand-up comedy routine about the magician tonight. He is so good. He is so good. And they'd already seen my picture, so I leaned my head on the curtain and I went, how good is he? And the whole audience laughed because they already know what I look like. And he goes, he is so good. He's going to make our seasickness disappear. He's just going on and I'm dying. So we're already in a good mood because Captain Dan has cracked us up. And I go on stage, I do the show, everything's going fine, and I go down the steps. And it's about 8 steps, and it got so bad. I went to walk forward. I went down 1 step, the ship lurched. I went face first down all the steps on the floor. The handheld mic rolled down the aisle, and then the ship lurched and it rolled back to my hand. I bring my face up. I hopped up. I was in so much pain. Like it was one of those ones where you're like, oh, it's not that bad. And then you hear 1,000 people go, oh my gosh, is she okay? And I went, oh, it's bad. And I had hands. I remember opening my eyes and seeing hands coming in to like help me up. I realized it was that bad. And I just popped up and I got the microphone. I was like, and that's why they canceled the dance show.
Wow. That's a great
response. I did Straight Jacket Escape. I did everything. And I'll tell you what, I got a partial standing ovation for standing up off the floor.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But that was interesting. So that was an example of, yeah, the show must go on no matter what.
Okay, so here's my question, because you brought it up. I don't even think about this anymore because I'm so used to just seeing you do your show. But you said that, so the captain did 10 minutes or 15 minutes on you being a male magician, but you're not, obviously not. So, like, what's that like? Do people say anything to you about, like, when you're on a ship and they see your show or whatever? Is that ever a conversation you have to have with people?
Well, it's kind of weird because I don't think about it. You know from being on the road with me, I forget about the female magician thing. I don't bring attention to it. I don't really care. I'm just like, I'm one of the dudes. I'm one of the magic dudes.
Right.
And on the ships, there are some people from different parts of the world that will be shocked. I mean, but that goes everywhere. I mean, I performed at a big magic convention last year, and I had a guy get in the elevator with me, and he was like, "Oh, I see you have a badge on. Are you the convention staff?" I'm like, "No, I'm one of the magicians. I'm performing the show tonight." He goes, "Oh, so you work here? Are you checking people in?" I'm like, "No, I'm one of the magicians. I'm performing on the show tonight." They're like, "Oh, so are you one of the techs, or you must be one of the lovely girls getting in the box?" I'm like, "No, I'm one of the magicians. I'm performing on the show tonight." And he goes, so wait, what do you do? And I'm like, "Just go to the 7 o'clock show and you'll be very surprised."
That's
And
unbelievable.
he was.
Oh my gosh.
But it happens. I have people on the ship where, because we get our comment cards sometimes. So I'll get comments about the show. And every once in a while, I have people that are like, "I've never seen a female magician. I never even thought about women doing magic." I had a guy that his daughter was a chess player. And I mean, good. She was like 9 years old, and I just started learning to play chess. And I was on the Holland America Zuiderdam, and she kicked my butt. I was playing with one of the band members, and she's like, "Can I play chess with you?" Sat down, completely wiped me out. Like, decimated me. It was awful, so embarrassing, but so much fun. But then she told me, she goes, "Yeah, my dad's trying to, get me to be my brother's assistant." I went, "Wait, say what?" She goes, "Oh, my dad's a magician, and he's training me to be my brother's assistant." I'm like, "Where's your dad?" And she's like, "Because I really want to do magic." And so I went up to her dad, and I said this very nicely. But I went, "So your daughter was telling me that you're teaching her to be her brother's assistant." And he's like, "Yeah, I am. I'm like, "Well, have you ever thought about just letting her learn magic?"
Yeah.
And not telling her that she has to be the assistant. And he went, he had no words. He genuinely had not even thought, not even crossed his mind to teach her magic instead of training her to be the assistant. So the cool thing is, and he was open to it. He came up to me later in the cruise and said, "I'm so glad you brought my attention to that, because it had never crossed my mind." So I do see it sometimes, but usually if it's something that comes up, there's always a positive outcome. Like, I've never had someone be like, "Oh, it was a woman magician, murder at the stake." Like,
Well,
it's never been something like that. But people are thrown by it. They don't know what to do sometimes. You'll see the look on their face. They're like, it's one of those sort of things.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? Again, I'll say it again. You have great stage presence. So I think once they see you and they're like, "Oh wow, she's very good," I think they're like, "Well, let's see where this goes," because I mean, that's there's first impression for any performer. The audience is wondering who this person is and should I pay attention to them for the next 45 minutes. So I think that you establish that very quickly, and they go, "All right, let's
But
watch."
especially in the days of America's Got Talent, because we live in a day and age. I mean, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, the people that review the shows were professionals at what they did. If there was an article that came out that had a review of what you did, it was someone that had seen thousands of shows that was going to write a review on that show if people should come see it. Now, in the day and age of America's Got Talent, you literally have people sitting there that basically say, "I'm going to give you 90 seconds. And it's like, in their mind, they think they can hit a big red button and a trap will open up in the stage and you'll fall down into this pit and they'll get another performer. And that's not the way it works. But people have been programmed to judge their entertainment instead of just being open to being entertained by them. And especially on the ships, another Lance Burton thing, he taught me you have to learn to perform for people that don't give a darn about you and make them like you. And when I did my Gatlinburg show, people that coming had a ticket to see Jessica James' Magic Comedy Variety Show. When I do the cruise ship shows, they're just going for the 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock show in the theater. The people coming to the 7 o'clock are hungry because they haven't had dinner yet. The people coming to the 9 o'clock are stuffed and usually drunk. So if I can make them like me, I am doing great. And they have fun. Like people will give me hugs. I mean, not on cruise ships anymore. I'm sure that will be changing. We'll be doing a little wave and, like an elbow bump or something. No more hugs. But they'll feel like they can come up to me and hang out, and I get great comment cards. My main comments on those ships are about audience connection and about inspiring them to find their passion. And I have that third group of people that say, I hated magic shows. They're like, I thought I hated magic shows. And then I saw your show and I loved it. And maybe I should give magic a chance. And I'm like, that's my people. If I can win over those people, boom.
Seriously, that's amazing. That's fantastic. So here's what I want to do. I want to do a quick thing here real quick because, hold on, I'm going to share my screen and I'll ask you about this COVID-19 situation in a minute about how it's affecting you, but so people can obviously see you through, because you're currently working on, well, once this is all over, you're back on ships, you work on a lot of ships, but I want to show something. I want to show something else that people probably have never seen, and it's a short clip, and I think you're gonna, I know you've never seen this before because I went and had to find it, and it was like unlabeled in a file somewhere. So this is a great clip to show just one more way that you connect with people. Watch this.
See some fire. You get to see fire tonight.
All right.
You got to show up though.
Oh, I'm showing.
Okay, so this is kind of cool. So we call this the mystery of the matchbox. You check out that drawer, and you check out that drawer. Okay, they are two separate objects, alrighty, but they share a magical connection. Take the matchboxes and place them end to end like so. Take your drawer and put it inside just like that. We're gonna do the same with yours. If you watch closely, something magical is about to happen. As one drawer closes, the other one magically opens. Now I know what you're thinking. There's probably like a pocket of air, right? As one drawer closes, it pushes the other one. Which is why we do this. Take them and place them side to side like that, not connected in any way. As one drawer closes, the other one still magically opens. We're gonna take it to the next level, okay? You wanna help me out, man?
Next level magic.
You gonna help me out? Okay. All right. So we're gonna actually separate the matchboxes, all right? I'm gonna hold them out like this. I want you to take your finger, put it out in front of you, and slowly but firmly, I want you to push down on the open drawer. And as one drawer closes, the other one magically opens. Check that out. Push that down one more time. Let's hear it for him.
Yeah, there you go.
Magic, man. Do the magic hands. Yeah.
It's like doing the wave. He's doing the wave.
See some fire.
I love that, but
You get to see
I love to see that I love people's reactions, and I love
his eyebrows, but
he's like, whoa, what's going on there? But that was so the story behind that is that we were in Europe and we had an opportunity to go see an area where they train airmen how to basically connect munitions and bombs and stuff like that to airplanes. And so there were all these, I think they were mostly, I don't know how many of them were real. I think mostly in that specific area, they were real, but there were no warheads or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think they would have let us in there.
Yeah. So they were dummy bombs, but like we were around all this stuff and those guys were awesome. They loved the magic. But yeah, no, I wanted to show that because I thought that was just another element. This just kind of shows how you have fun with people.
It was fun. Dude, that day was awesome. Oh, yeah. I loved that day. You remember what were they were doing? They were attaching something to one of like the fighter
Yeah.
jets or whatever in that space, and we got to watch them do everything, and they gave us the tour. We have photos with missiles, Jason Michaels.
We absolutely do. So tell me, no, there's no doubt about it. So tell me how is this, how are you dealing with COVID-19? How has it affected you? Tell me.
Okay, now first of all, March 7th, I was on a ship. So
Okay.
I mean, I was still on a ship when we were hearing about everything. As of February, I had already changed my show to 0 audience interaction where we touch anything. I mean, anything where they would have touched a prop or I shook their hand is all out of the show already in February. So I'd been doing my show with audience participation that didn't require physical contact for a month on ships already. So I figured it was just going to keep going because the ships are so good at sanitation. I know you see on the news and they're like, oh, this ship has an outbreak. There's so many cruise ships. And what I want you to think about is how many did not have an outbreak. They are so good at sanitation. I completely honestly feel safer on any cruise ship, on any line, than I do in Los Angeles. I completely honestly.
Yep.
And so I got off the ship March 7th, and I was supposed to get on the Holland America Amsterdam to go to Hawaii. I was going to go out of San Diego to Hawaii. And I remember it only took 3 to 4 days for the contracts to start dropping off. And I'm very thankful. Norwegian Cruise Line, despite everything they went through, they had paid me on time for the contract that was I think I was out there for 4 weeks that I did do. And Holland America was kind enough to pay my contract that was 2 weeks out. Basically, they would pay you if it was within 2 weeks of you leaving, but everything else is gone. I've lost 22 cruise ship contracts without pay. Yeah, 22 without pay.
That hurts. Yeah.
And so that's not just cruise ships. There's also a few corporate dates in there, but 22 combined corporate and cruise ship, mostly ships though, because I mean, I was set to perform back-to-back cruises. I mean, I get off one ship, I have 24 hours. Like I was supposed to be going down to Panama, and then I have 24 hours. I get back to LA, I fly to Florida, I get on the Norwegian breakaway, I hop on the Pride of America to Hawaii, I get back, I do this ship, then I go on the Norwegian Pearl, then I go on this one and this one. And that was straight until November. It literally without more than a week off in between contracts. So I was thrilled. I mean, this was going to be the first year that I actually made money because I've invested so much in my show. I was like, this is the year I'm going to make money. And it started out where originally they were going to keep sailing. And basically we had to have 14 days between our contracts. So that already wiped out most of my contracts because I was only home a week in between. So most of them were gone. And then we got the news that all the cruise lines had shut down. And I was optimistic with it. And honestly, yesterday afternoon, I found out that the CDC has now added they even put at least in capitals, 100 more days to their no sail order for all cruise ships. Wow. So I lost more. And then I got my unemployment paperwork and they have awarded me $0.00 because so I'm not eligible for these $600 because you have to get at least $1 to get the $600 for self-employed, which I'm going to be resilient and I am going to attempt to get through during the 4 hours that the California unemployment hotline is open, but I'm not expecting it. I think for entertainers, it's so hard. I know they're trying to change things for the self-employed people, but it's almost like they know it's going to be so hard for you to get that self-employment that it's the people who are willing to sit on the phone for 4 hours a day for 2 weeks to get through that one time to try to fix everything that are going to get it. Because a lot of people are going to give up. They're going to get like me. There's people that are going to get that letter that says they get nothing and they're going to wait and go, okay, well, I guess I don't get it, but I am going to be on that phone 4 hours a day for the next 4 weeks, and I'm going to explain to them everything with them passing this. So, because I mean, it's all gone. Like, it's literally all gone. I mean, you know, as an entertainer, a lot of times we're spending money to make money. That is our job. When we have a show, while I try to put some in savings, the money from the show goes into getting another show, or goes into new magic, because the show is always excelling and it's never at the point where I want it to be. So I'm always investing in it, and I'm always working on new technology to put into it, getting a better camera, getting a better effect, getting better costumes. And it's thousands of dollars. I mean, if I look at what I put in the show, I've joked that it's $1,000 a minute, because between all the classes and all the tricks that didn't make it in the show, and all the costumes that have gotten destroyed, and all the sound systems and the microphones, it's basically $1,000 a minute. So I think this hit us so hard because we had no warning. So all of a sudden there's nothing. But that's where the people that are surviving this are the ones hopping online and saying, you know what, if I can't go to an audience, I'll see if my audience can come to me. And I will reach people online, because the most important thing is just keeping relationships with people and showing, hey, all this stuff happened and it stinks, but I'm being positive. So I want you to be positive too, even though all this is happening. And I feel like this is literally a lesson for people in positivity, that even when it gets to our darkest days, if we keep our mind on the right track and fight through it, then when everything kicks up, we're just going to appreciate it that much more, because you get used to those things happening. And now when there are shows again, you know, the first time that we both walk on stage after this, you know, the thankfulness that we're going to push out to our audience.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll cry. I guarantee you I'll be crying in the first 5 minutes. I will be so thankful to them. And so I guess it's teaching us not to take anything for granted and giving us this amazing time to work on stuff. When have we ever had time to sit in our living rooms for days on end and work on new material and read books and work on ourselves? I mean, when have we had that?
Oh, you're right. No, I mean, yes, I think it's the type of thing that it is difficult situation, and we have to figure out how to use that situation to our advantage, because at some point things do go back to what it may be a new normal, but it's back to normal somewhat. So yeah, I'm with you completely.
Totally.
So let's kind of, I want to move forward, and I know that you said you would stick around, and so,
you're gonna see fire.
Real quick, we're going to dive. Oh, I promised everybody a magic trick, and so I said grab a couple of playing cards. I have my playing cards here. If you haven't gotten them, what you need 3 playing cards, 1 that is a picture card and 2 number cards, and we're going to do a magic trick together. So there's a famous magic, or it's not even a magic trick, it's actually a con game called the 3-card Monte. And then when you play the game with a queen, it's called Find the Lady. When it's played with an ace, it's called Chase the Ace. We're going to play a little modified version of this game right there at your home. If you have the playing cards that I asked you to have, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your 2 number cards, and I just want you to hold on to them so that they're face down in your hand, and take that picture card and drop it on the top. All right, so here we go. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of a number. Don't tell me. Think of a number between 1 and 10. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If you pick a smaller number, like between 1 and 6, this will go faster, but it's your choice. So think of a number between 1 and 10. Your number, don't say a word. I don't want to know. And then I want you to, whatever that number is, you're going to take cards 1 at a time off the top and put them underneath. So let's just, so here, we'll do it together. Okay, so whatever your number is, I'm just going to pretend. I want you to, so remember that number, however many cards, however many that is. If your number is 3, you're going to go 1, 2, and then you're going to go 3, so that 3 cards 1 at a time go from the top to the bottom. So do that now. Move that many cards from the top to the bottom. Okay, now what is happening here is I'm hoping little by little you're starting to lose, like you don't know exactly where that queen is. But in order to make this a little bit tougher and maybe help you forget a little bit more, I'm going to ask you to do that exact same thing one more time. Whatever your number is, same number, keep that number in mind. Move that many cards. We'll pretend like it's 3. 1, 2, 3. Move those cards from the top to the bottom one at a time. Now, my number, the number I was thinking of, is the number 2. So I want you to do this 2 times. Again, well, I'm sorry, move 2 cards. 1 card from the top to the bottom and a second card from the top to the bottom. Now, I'm hoping what's happening is we're mixing these cards up. So I'm going to ask you to do this one more time. 2, my number, 2. Move 1 card from the top to the bottom and a second card to the top to the bottom. And then in order to throw this thing completely off kilter, so there's no way you could possibly know where the cards are, remember your number that you thought of a moment ago? Move that, do that same thing, your number. Let's pretend it was 3 one more time. Whatever your number is, move that many cards from the top to the bottom and then freeze and don't move. Now that's been a lot of process, like a lot of things have happened there. Lots of cards have been moved from the top to the bottom. Hopefully you don't have a clue where that queen is. I'm going to try to figure out where it is through the screen. I'm going to say the top card, the very top card you're holding, I'm going to say that's not that queen. And it's not for me. It's not that one. I'm going to say the next top card is also not the queen. And it's not for me. That means that very bottom card that you're holding should be that queen, that picture card, that ace. Chase the ace, find the lady, and that is a little 3-card Monty for you right here through the screen. I hope you liked it. And you did it too, Jess. Thanks for participating. So right now I want to take 3 minutes and I want to chat with you about resilience and imagination. What is resilience? We've been talking about, it's sort of the theme of these shows for the last 4 weeks. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. It is basically a mental toughness. And one way to develop resilience is through using your imagination. So let's talk specifically about that. So imagination, basically, in my mind, and when I do my talk, Do the Impossible, I talk about that imagination is where the process of creation begins. Basically, what I think is the things that we picture in our minds are ultimately the things that end up coming to fruition in our life. They are the things that we more or less create. Our mind creates that reality in real life. So my question to you is, what do you want to create in your life? Now, I will give you a couple of examples. When I wanted to become a professional magician, I had in my head what I thought that was going to look like. And I pictured in my mind me standing in front of audiences. I pictured people watching my card tricks because I was mostly doing card tricks at the time. And I saw what I wanted to achieve, what I was hoping to achieve. And little by little, that imagination, I think, fueled me to take the necessary steps. And it helped me see what I wanted the reality to be in my life. And I believe by living your imagination, and when I say living your imagination, I mean living the vision, so that you have a vision, something you want to occur. By living it in your mind first, you prepare your mind and your body to realize that thing. Basically, when I was competing in magic competitions, I would basically see all the different things that could happen. I would see somebody giving me a hard time as I was practicing my routines. I would see somebody else, laughing at the jokes that I was saying. I would see all of this in my imagination, and that way, when it finally came time to compete in the magic competitions, I had already lived these scenarios out in my mind. So when they happen in real life, it wasn't a surprise. It was exactly what I had seen in my mind. And I think now is the time that we can do this. Jess was just talking about a moment ago. She just said, hey, when else have we had an opportunity to sit in our living room and work on, now we were talking about magic, but when else have we had an opportunity to sit down, slow down, and basically say, what do I want in my life? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want the things that I am doing? What are my goals? What are my dreams? So basically what I kind of bring this short little talk around by saying that for the people who say, oh, I can't possibly use my imagination, you use your imagination when you read a book. You see what that person is trying to picture. They want you to picture in your mind. You use your imagination when you hear a story. You use your imagination when you remember something. And now is the time to use your imagination to create something new and something wonderful in your life. Jess, does this pop into your brain and make you think of anything in particular?
Oh yeah, I'm really big on I got that book The Secret
Yeah.
not too long ago, and I read about manifestation and visualization and bring things into your world. And perfect example, I remember that you had Ben Young and I on the flight, on the TAP Portugal flight to, I believe, Greece, write down our goals. Everything I wrote down in that notebook has come true. But you told me I had to write it down. And I remember at the time, Jason, I really want to perform on ships. I want to be a cruise ship magician. And now it's the number one thing that I do. I mean, even last year, not soon after you had me write that down, I think 3 weeks went by after you had me write that down, and I got my first solo cruise ship gig.
Holy cow, that's amazing.
I mean,
so that's okay. Hold that story, because I want you to like continue on that story. But what I want to do is, so just lock that down, that down, and I want to do one more quick thing. I want to show one clip. I will say this: if this talk on imagination speaks to you, I created a really cool PDF. It's a 4-page PDF. It's beautiful. It's well designed. It's basically my Live Big system, where I talk about imagination. I also talk about belief, and I talk about going forth and making these things happen in your life. And so that is a report that is absolutely free on my website, jasonmichaelsmagic.com.
Oh, I'd love that.
There's a blog post right now called Live Big to Live Your Best Life. And if you go to that, you can get that free report where it talks about belief, imagination, and going forth. And it talks about what we're discussing here. And the reason, Jess, I asked you to just hold that thought for 1 second is because I want to play a clip for you where I talk a little bit more in depth on imagination. Are we good with that? All right. So this is from my talk, Do the Impossible. Lock in. I think this is going to speak to you. Nope, give me my cursor back. There we go.
Live big with belief and imagination. BI, belief, imagination. Have you guys ever heard that phrase, think outside the box? Yes? What does that mean? This is the interactive portion of the show. What does it mean? Think outside the box. Just give me some things. Think creatively. Think about things in ways that other people don't think. Notice what it says and notice what it doesn't say. It says think outside the box. What does it not say? It doesn't say do outside the box. Why not? Why? Isn't that more specific? Doesn't that make more sense? We can get a better, we can get a better outcome if we do outside the box. It's because thinking outside the box is where it all starts. The act of creation begins with thought. Everything begins with imagination. When I wanted to go out for that play, I remember there were a few days before the auditions that I just kind of sat when I wasn't working on something, I would sit in the theater audience and I would look at that stage and I would see myself up on that stage. I didn't really know that I was using these sort of universal principles. I just know this is what I did. I've always had a strong imagination. I would see myself up on that stage. And then when I got to go be on the stage, I would look out into this empty audience and I would see an audience full of people. And then I would see them and I would imagine myself saying a line and these people over here were laughing and then doing something else and these people were having fun. And at the end, when it was all said and done, I saw everybody stand up and applaud. And they were applauding me but they were not pointing me out because of something that was negative. They were not alienating me or embarrassing me for something I had no control over. They were standing up and they were applauding because of something I could do well and something that I was great at. That's what I had in my head. When I decided to learn sleight of hand, I decided that I knew I had to find a way to differentiate myself from everybody else in the magic business when I got serious about the business. And I had to try to find a way to get hired by people. The way I decided to differentiate myself was to compete in international magic competitions. And I decided to learn something that is, if you ask a magician, about this one specific thing I decided to learn. What the general consensus is that magicians will judge other magicians on their competency and their expertise in sleight of hand on this one magic trick. So I decided I'm going to learn and create something that I hope will be an award-winning act out of the trick that magicians are judged on their ability to do sleight of hand. Now, if you recall, a few years before, I didn't believe I could do sleight of hand. I had a lot of work to do. I had to create the routine. I had to script it. I had to create sort of the persona that I wanted to be in front of the audience. And I had to do all of this. I had to craft a script. I had to get a soundtrack. There was a ton of work, and it all started right here in my head. Everything began here. I knew that if I was going to find a way to impress, which I knew I had to impress these judges at these competitions, that I would have to do something really special, something very outside of the box. Started right here. I would see the outcome I wanted. I would see the people sitting. I would be standing in a room at my house, and I would see all these people in front of me, and they're laughing at the things I'm doing. They're amazed, and they're applauding. And then I would see the outcome I wanted. I would see this announcement from the stage and my name being announced, and I'm walking up there to get to receive some sort of an award. The world constantly asked Harry Houdini how he did the things that he did. In addition to being a great magician, Harry Houdini was the world's finest escape artist, and they said, "How do you do these things? This is not a magic trick, this is a physical feat. What you saw is exactly what it takes to escape from a straitjacket. There is no secret to it other than what you saw." But instead of answering their question, instead of saying, "Well, you know, I worked harder," what he did was he gave them this piece of wisdom. He didn't give them a secret like, "Oh, here's the secret to the trick." Here's what he said. They said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "My mind is the key that sets me free." Live big with belief and imagination.
All right, there you go. All right.
Live big with belief and imagination.
Stop.
Belief,
All right, there we go. All right, Jess. So what do we learn from the video? I wanted you to stop telling the story because I wanted to play that clip because it just kind of expanded on what I had been talking about. But I gave you the advice that I love to give people. I think everybody has massive potential. And what I saw being on that tour with you is that you were like this close. You were like right on the edge to getting what you wanted. And so I gave you the advice that I gave you because I thought this is the thing that could potentially just push her over the edge as far as all of a sudden, by using the imagination, multiple things happen. There is the idea that you can manifest the things that you want, but there's also the idea that just by picturing it in your mind, like really seeing it in your mind, that you will take the necessary steps. Sometimes we get in our own way and we just simply don't do the things that we have to do. And that by seeing it in our minds, it just drives home the fact that this is something that we want, and it feels very natural, but we naturally take the necessary right steps. And you got what you wanted within a very short period of time. Yes?
Oh yeah, and I even do it daily now with things that wouldn't matter to most people. When I wake up in the morning, I play out my whole day in my head before I open my eyes. I mean, like the whole day with everything going well. And I have a friend, Ramona, she runs like a law of attraction style meeting here in Burbank that I go to. And her and her husband, Mike, both like cancer survivors, I mean, believe in like the power of thought and positivity. And she said, even when you go to the grocery store, she goes, picture yourself finding the perfect spot in the parking lot. She goes, just as simple as imagining getting your perfect spot and visualize it, and you'd be shocked. It literally happens. Like, I feel like if you play out everything going well, like you said with the magic, competition and the people standing up and the awards and stuff, and you play that out, and it's almost like you're crafting and creating your reality as you go. And I never understood that. I always struggled with it. And my thing is, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel this way too, I have an extremely overactive imagination, which can either work for me or against me. And when I was on the road with you, I remember we realized too that my imagination works against me so often, because my problem was I would picture the worst case scenarios, and I'm still guilty of this sometimes. And I realized that with all the energy it takes to manifest and to visualize something great, it almost takes less energy to picture something going wrong. And then we fall into that and we let ourselves picture things like that. And it's almost like worrying. Somebody told me worrying is like praying for something that you don't want. And so that hit me really hard. And I realized when I visualize good things, they happen. When I visualize bad things, sometimes those things happen too. So it's so important to think outside the box and to create in a positive way and picture everything going well. Like that's become so important to me. And you basically inspired me too to get out of my own way with it. You know, like it's just to stop overthinking, picture the good stuff, see it happening, and then let it. And that's part of manifestation. When I go to those meetings, is they said the hardest step is allowing. You have to allow it to happen. And I thought that was so interesting, that that's the hardest part. So that's hit me really hard. And in sort of learning how to allow what I visualized to happen, now the ball is starting to roll and I'm starting to pick up speed. And they also say the more momentum you get, the easier it is. So you get a little bit of momentum and you keep going. And if good things are happening, you visualize more and it becomes an easier process. But if you lose momentum and things slow down, it gets harder. And that's all part of the process. It's just starting over again and seeing what you want. But it's helped me a lot, man. I mean, since you have me start writing stuff down in that notebook and having me establish goals for myself, it has literally changed my world.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, that's fantastic. That is what I too got out of it. And I'm a huge believer in momentum. I think that momentum is I don't think that people think enough about, you know, there's a lot of effort that goes into starting the ball rolling, and
Yeah.
it does not take as much effort to continue the ball rolling. And then when the ball starts rolling downhill, it takes even less effort, but you still have to put forth the effort. Like you still have to put forth the work and you can't just stop.
Yeah.
But what happens is, like, all of a sudden you start looking around one day and you're like, oh my goodness, look at this. And you almost can't recognize where you find yourself, but you have to remember that these are that you have taken the necessary steps. And so I thought it was, I think that right now with people dealing with self-quarantine, I think that people being lonely, being away from others, not being able to go out and just do the normal everyday thing. I think that the thing, you know, in the past when I've talked about resilience, I've talked about compassion, I've talked about mindfulness, and I've talked about what was the other one? Compassion, mindfulness, and learning. And I just think that anything that we can do to strengthen ourselves is well, it's good anytime, but it's especially good right now. And I think that folks being open to the idea of using their imagination to help see themselves where they want to be. And sometimes it happens very fast. Like you said, within 3 weeks, like something you had been hoping for a long time happened. Sometimes it takes more time, but I promise you it has worked in my life. And that's one of the reasons why I put out the Live Big system, because I was like, or the little, I talk about it in my talk, but that's why I specifically put out the PDF that I did, which is available on the website. I have one more surprise for you, but before we get to the surprise, I want to, real quickly, I want to do a small business spotlight. And we're spotlighting Legacy Farms. Legacy Farms is a 22-acre beautiful historic manor and event facility, and it's right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I know Kelly Bryson, who owns Legacy Farms, and they have it's on this 22-acre area. It is stunningly beautiful. So, and they have different types of facilities. So there's There's the Heritage Hall, where if people who are getting married want to, they can literally stay on property so that when they wake up, boom, they're already at the venue where they're going to get married. And like I said, it is a beautiful wedding venue. They have all on this land. They have incredible photo opportunities. They have a fully stocked pond. They have all these beautiful outdoor locations. I went there for a corporate event. And it was an Alice in Wonderland themed, and Kelly and her entire team had created this incredible Alice in Wonderland space with all sorts of different cool ideas incorporated into the space. She has a full culinary team. They had done Alice in Wonderland style food, and it was awesome. And not only do they do weddings, but they also host all sorts of events, from corporate functions to wellness retreats and to family reunions and more. And if you are interested, if you are getting married, or you're interested in once all of this blows by and we're able to start doing events again, if you're interested in more information about Legacy Farms, check out legacyfarmstn.com. That is legacyfarmstn. Now, Jess, it's time for some more fun and amazement. This is a photograph of us that we took from our 2018 European tour. That's you, that's me, that's Ben Young next to me. And then there's Joy, who went with us, and she was amazing. She took such good care of us. I'm going to show you a clip from an amazing wine tasting that we did. We had a day off in Portugal, and we chose to spend that day off. The people that we met in Portugal said, we have some things that you could do. It's up to you. We decided to do a wine tour. And so to set this clip up, the man who was doing the wine tasting took us. They had all these small buildings, and we had this unbelievable meal, and we had this wine tasting, and they paired wines to foods. And then they took us to this other area where they had all these bottles of wine, and we decided to shoot a little magic video. So I'm going to show you this, and then after this is over, Jess, you can share with us any story or thought that you have about it. Where is this photo taken, by the way? Is that the Trevi Fountain?
Yeah, and I have video of you throwing your coins in.
I was throwing my three coins over my shoulder. Yep. For one was for Rome, one was for love, and one was for marriage, I think, if I remember correctly. And the one for Rome, I don't know if any of that worked out. So, all right. Anyway, all right. Enjoy this short clip, and just check out how cool the area is behind all those wine bottles up. All right, check this out.
All right, tell me when we're shooting.
Oh, we're shooting.
We're shooting.
We're in.
What are we shooting?
We're right outside of Lisbon, Portugal, and we're in an unbelievable wine cellar, and we're going to do a little bit of magic. And I'm going to have some people help me out. I've got some fantastic. You guys have been enjoying some magic, yes? Who wants to help me out? Who wants to be the one?
All of us.
Okay, so I tell you what, we're gonna have one person help me out to start
Karen.
with. All right,
Karen,
so I'm gonna
Kim,
push through
Stephanie.
the cards like so. The cards are just gonna kind of go by little by little.
Yes.
Whenever you feel like it, touch one card that you would like. Just touch one for me. It's your choice. Okay, so are you touching this one right here?
I am touching that one.
All right, so here we go. We're just going to bring this up to the top. We're going to leave it a little bit of a mystery, so I don't want anybody to know what it is. Take the pen. So from there to there, write your name big and bold so that it's easy to see.
Can I turn it this way? I'm a lefty.
Sure, absolutely.
All right.
All right.
Good.
You want to put your initial at the very end?
But that's my name.
All right, your little last initial? Put it on there.
Oh, okay.
All right, perfect. All right, so Karen's writing on Karen's mystery card. Now, I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to just be 100% sure. When you touch the card, nobody actually saw what the card was. Does anybody have any idea as to what the card
Not
is?
a clue. No.
Not a clue. All right, perfect. All right, so what we're going to do this time, you selected one card from the pack face down. It's a mystery card. It is marked. We're going to select another card from the pack face up. This time, I'm going to push through the cards like so, one at a time.
But how do you know I'm not going to pick the same card?
Well, I tell you what, reach out and touch one card. It'll be your choice, the one that you want. Don't let it go by the one that you want. When you see one that looks good to you, touch it.
Okay. Reach out and touch someone?
Whatever you like.
Okay, that one.
With the three of spades.
Can I look at it?
Are you happy with it?
I don't
Would
know.
you like
Can
to
I
change? Well, the question is, would you like to change your mind, or are you happy with the 3?
Well, I mean, I want to look at it first.
Well, it's gonna make your decision.
Okay,
You gotta
all
make
right,
your
that's the
decision.
one
The
I
3
want.
of spades. All right, the 3 of spades. Remember, 3 of spades, 3 of spades, 3 of spades. 2 cards have been selected. The first card that was selected is a mystery card. We don't know what it is, but we wrote your name on it. The second card is, in fact, the second card was the 3 of spades, wasn't it?
Yes.
This card has your writing on it. It's your initial. Would you be impressed if this card, when I turn it over, is in fact?
Impressed would not be the adjective I would use. But yes.
Yes, so
Yes.
hopefully you're looking for a more strong.
Yeah.
It's got
Oh,
your
yeah.
writing on the one side, on the other side, it is in fact. So here's my question to you guys. When you see, because I learned when I started doing magic tricks, this is one of those that when I did it, people would come up to me afterwards and they would give me their theories as to how this type of thing works, because I've learned that some magic tricks are too amazing. They're too good. And they would say, well, somehow, I don't know what you did, but somehow you did this thing, and when I wasn't looking, you did this other thing. And so what I learned I had to do with some magic tricks is explain to you how the tricks work, because I want to make sure that you guys don't have any trouble sleeping at nighttime. I want to make sure that you can sleep okay. So I'm going to explain it to you without telling you how it works. That doesn't sound like it makes any sense whatsoever, does it?
Not at all.
That's all right, because here's what we're going to do. We're going to have you select another card. We're going to push the cards one at a time. Again, what the simple fact of the matter is, here's the explanation. It makes no difference what card you select. You can touch any card. All the magic is in your signature. Which one? You're touching this one right here.
Yep, right
I'll
there.
push it forward. I'll kick it up. So we've got your card right here, the King of Diamonds. Now, there's nothing altogether all that special about the King of Diamonds. However, if I take the King of Diamonds, check this out, and I rub it against the 3 of spades. I said the magic isn't about your card. I said the magic is about your signature, and that's why your signature is not on the 3 of spades anymore. That's why your signature. Check it out. Check it out. Actually, hold on to it. Make sure there's not anything weird about that. Make sure that is what it appears to be.
Weird.
All right. So that's right. All right. Now we're gonna do one that gets both of you guys involved. Are you guys want to cut, or you want to?
A little magic from Portugal. So, did any stories pop into your mind from that? Wasn't that an amazing space that we were in?
It was, and there was wine had.
You can tell, I think, that there was a lot of wine involved in the shooting of that episode.
Yeah, but they also didn't say that we'd be drinking, oh God, 6 glasses at 10 a.m.?
Yeah,
and
it
we're
was
jet
early.
lagged?
Yeah, it was early. It was like, oh, we're going to the wine thing. And, you're right. It was like literally 10 o'clock in the morning. You're like, all right, we're going to do this wine tasting. It's like, we are? Now?
And
oh, okay.
that was the night that I had we were in Pisa, and you remember I jammed my finger in Pisa, and I was having trouble with my hand. My hand went numb at the palm and the finger, right? That was the night when we were in Portugal that I did my fire eating act, and I went to do the thing where I put the torch on my hand and I wrap my hand around it and it extinguishes it. But because my hand was numb, I squeezed harder than I realized, and I will never forget your face at the back of the room. Take the fire torch, put it on my hand, put the torch there, squeeze, and I realized because my hand was numb, I had squeezed the torch and the fluid dripped down my arm, and that was the night that my hand caught fire, and I just was like, don't panic. And so I let go, and I let my hand on fire fall to my side, and I did a pretty little move, and I ate the fire, and I remember seeing you at the back of the room going, because my hand was on fire for a good couple seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time, but it was long enough, and your face was priceless. I will never forget that. It was so entertaining.
That is why anytime I see fire acts, I'm always nervous.
Also, I think it was that the same trip too we went through TSA and Ben Young had a raccoon that would come to life on stage, and the raccoon, we were going through TSA and they opened Ben Young's bag and this raccoon came flying out of the brings it to life and has it like eating pocket lint out of his hand, doing all this stuff. And the guys, I think, were German, and they were not amused by this.
Just for everybody watching, it is not a real raccoon. That is done through puppetry and what. But yes, no, there are always adventures when you travel, especially international travel.
That was also the trip where I realized that you do an awesome Nicolas Cage impression. And hey Jason Michaels, so what document are you gonna get?
Oh, this is where you had me say, I am going to steal the Declaration of Independence. So I still don't hear it myself, but I'll take your word for it.
It's my favorite.
It makes you happy. It makes you happy. And I am glad to make you happy. So takeaways from today's episode: we met and got to have a blast visiting with Jessica Jane Peterson. We got to see some of her magic as well. We talked a little bit more about resilience and that it is mental toughness. And we specifically talked about imagination and how the imagination is the beginning of the act of creation. And then we enjoyed a whole bunch of live interactive magic and some magic from the tour as well. So, Jess, do you have any final thoughts? It has been a pleasure to have you as part of the show. Was there anything else that you just thought, oh, I should add?
I guess I just want to stress to people to stay positive, even in this crazy time when all this crazy stuff is happening. You can choose what you do with this time. And I'm not saying you have to like go write a book or do an incredible work of art. Just take time to spend time just working on yourself too. It can be little things. I mean, you know this, I occasionally suffer from depression, and being alone in situations like this can hit you hard. But if you focus your mind on something positive, it makes all the difference in the world. So just focus on the positive, and even if it doesn't seem like there is something, there always is, there always will be. It's like that Charlie Chaplin song, the smile though your heart is breaking, smile though you feel it aching, you know, though there are clouds in the sky, we'll get by if we smile. Like that song perfectly embodies that for me. Just smile, keep smiling.
You know what that makes me think of? That makes me think of it. Anytime I talk to people and they say, oh, you know, I'm having a hard day or whatever, I couldn't tell you how frequently what I have found is that as the day goes on, later in the day, and we get tireder throughout the day, just, you know, because the day has passed and we just get naturally tireder. Things always seem a little bit tougher. This is something I noticed about myself. Things always seem a little bit tougher and a little bit more amplified later in the day.
Yes.
As opposed to earlier in the day. I always tell people, I say, never make any important decisions late in the day. Don't ever make any important decisions. If it is an important decision, wait until tomorrow morning when you have a different perspective on it.
Yep.
So, well, Jess, thank you for being part of this. It has been a blast to get to visit with you. I'm going to be back with another episode probably in about a week or so. It could be 2 weeks. If you would like more information about when that is going to come out, check out jasonmichaelsmagic.com/JM-TV. For spotlight opportunities, if you're a small business and you would like to spotlight your small business, you can email me. My email address is jm@jasonmichaelsmagic.com. And if you know somebody who has overcome something that is very challenging, if they have an inspiring story, email me. I would love to hear about them. I would love to learn about them. And if you want to tell me what you thought about this episode, leave me a comment on my blog where I'm going to post this. You can leave me a comment on Facebook where will be posted, or you can send me an email. Again, it is jm@jasonmichaelsmagic.com. A big thank you to Jessica Jane Peterson for being a part of this episode, and a big thank you to you for watching. This has been Jason Michaels TV. You guys have a great day, and we will see you very soon. See you soon, Jessica Jane.